I mean, come on, you read the title, right? You read the title of this video before you clicked on it. How can every book be a New York Times bestseller? It's a question, it's not my own question. I mean, it is my own question. I've had this question for a long time, but I mean, this is a question that so many people have. There are, in fact, people who really think the whole thing is a myth because books that you see, almost all of them will say New York Times bestseller. But if every book is a New York Times bestseller, then no book is a New York Times bestseller. My father always told me, if everyone's your friend, nobody's your friend. How can every book seem to be, how can it be that every book on the market seems to be a New York Times bestseller? You ever thought about this? I thought about this and I'm like, how can this be? And so I started doing some research. And what I discovered was actually fascinating, and it has a practical message for us as Yidden and for this upcoming holiday of Sukkot, getting Pesach, right? So what's going on here? New York Times bestseller. How can so many books say it? So whoa, whoa, whoa. It's true. A lot, maybe even most of the books that you see say New York Times bestseller. But does that mean that all books are New York Times bestseller? Did you know that Google in 2010 had like a, I don't know if it was a study or they had some way, somehow they figured out that in 2010 there was 130 million books on the market in the modern world. 130 million books. That's a lot. Okay, now when did this New York Times bestseller list start? So the New York Times bestseller list, if you're not familiar, is every week they put out a new list of bestsellers for that week, and they have a whole bunch of different genres, like probably close to 20, maybe more than that genres, right? This type of genre, novel and softcover, hardcover, this size, that size, kids book, children's book, this type of, right? There's so many different types, different genres, different types of books, different way books are formatted, and they all get different placements, and they put out once a week. They have this list, and if you make it as a bestseller, well, then you've made it, and your book generally sells pretty good, or your book has to sell pretty well to get on that list. But is it really every book? So if there are 130 million books on the market, and by the way, we're 15 years past 2010, so we're more than that, but let's say 130 million books on the market. New York Times bestseller list only started in 1931. So if you do the math, and they do about 15, it's about 15 a week, right? So if you do the math, it comes out that in the world there are about, and this is a conservative guess, somewhere between 20 and 30,000 books that are bestsellers. 20 to 30,000 books are bestsellers out of 130 million. Now that number is wild. 30,000 out of 130 million is about, the number is about 0.02%. It's about 0.02% of a chance. That means one in every 5,000 books will be a New York Times bestseller. Now, let me ask you something. When looked at from this perspective, it gives a whole nother angle. A New York Times bestseller is actually quite a rarity. 0.02% of a chance, one in every 5,000 books. But it looks like every book that you see is a New York Times bestseller. The reason is because the books that are on the front page of Amazon, the books that are on the front right row, the front display of the bookstore that you're passing by, those are the books that they're displaying. Those are the New York Times bestseller. So from our perspective, it looks like every book is a New York Times bestsellers because those are the ones that we see because they're bestsellers. They're bestsellers. That's why they're bestsellers, because they're popular. So that's why you see them, and that's why it looks like all these books. These other books you don't even hear about. I was thinking about this as it relates to us, the Jewish people. You know, we're quote unquote the New York Times bestseller, right? What do I mean by that? You know, if you take that number, there 0.02% of the world's books is a New York Times bestseller. Look at us. We're the Jewish people, right? We're 0.2% of the world. We're 0.2% of the world's population in a world with 8 billion people, and we're somewhere between 15 and 16 million. So one in every 500 people is a Jew. About. We're a rarity, right? Yet we're on every front cover of the news and the center of the world, and with in Israel politics, and right, we're the top of the people, and right in terms of doctors and lawyers, in terms of leaders, like the Jewish people are always getting the attention, a lot of it for not good stuff, anti-Semitism, and a lot of it for good, Nobel Prize winners, and so what's going on? Where it's a rarity. We're a small percent. We're 0.2% of the world, correct? But that's exactly the point. Just like the New York Times list, they're called bestsellers for a reason, and that's why you see them everywhere. We are the bestsellers of the world. I don't mean that in a haughty way. That's just the hashgacha of it. Hashem chose us to be the bestsellers. Hashem chose us to be this genre. Hashem chose us to be the light unto the nations. That's who we are. We should be grateful. Not haughty filled, but filled with pride and filled with joy and humility for this responsibility. But that's why you see us everywhere. This is the hashgacha of the world. And I think as it relates to us in within Yiddishkeit, within the Jewish community, just like in the New York Times list, you have different genres, and you could be a bestseller book for being a paperback in a kid's book, for being a hardcover in the novel section. For right, they have tons of different bestseller lists. And I think in Yiddishkeit as well, it's important to kind of connect to this idea that we're all a bestseller for a different reason, right? We each have our own genre that makes us who we are, that makes us unique. And the moment in history that kind of sealed this stamp on this, that you are special, you are going to be a bestseller nation, you're going to be at the front lines of everything in this world. That was Yetzias Mitzrayim. That was the stamp. That was Hashem choosing us. That was B'nai B'chorei Yisrael. That was Hashem saying, this is going to be the people. This is going to be the nation that's a light unto the nations. This is when the Jewish identity was born. And Hashem was saying, you are going to be the bestseller people. Make it count. Make sure that you count, because you do count. You are the bestseller of your genre, and that Yid is the bestseller in his genre. Respect his genre. He'll respect your genre. And overall, as a collective whole, as Am Yisrael, as the Jewish people, realize that you are the bestseller list of the world. You are the Am HaNivchar. You are the chosen people. Relish in that. Embrace that with humility, of course, and cherish who you are, what you are. Pesach is a time to understand not all this stuff that are ancillary about us, but it's about who we are really at our core. Chayv Adam liros es atzmo, to see ourselves, liros es atzmo, to see atzmuso, to see our panemius, to see our essence, to see who it is that we really are. We are the chosen people. We are that bestseller list. And so we got to respect that. We got to behave properly. We got to make sure we're standing up to what we're supposed to stand up for, fighting for what we're supposed to fight for, living according to how we're supposed to live, and being the best people that we can possibly be, making a Kiddush Hashem with everything that we do. Be'ezras Hashem, my new book on Pesach is now out. It's available on Amazon. Karpas, the Big Dipper. Uplift your Pesach, uplift your Seder, uplift your life today. Go ahead to Amazon, find it there, Karpas, the Big Dipper. It's an exciting adventure you want to explore.